gracias por acompañarnos en Correo Canadiense. Platicamos con Julia Drydick, quien es directora ejecutiva del Canadian Center to End Human Trafficking, sobre la trata laboral, un problema grave en Canadá. Acompáñame a ver esta información.
Often people that experience labor trafficking experience other forms of abuse by their employers. So it can start with threats, intimidation, really poor living conditions, having ID confiscated, but also physical abuse. And again, threats of deportation. Workers arrive in Canada, they have rights to fair wages, safe working standards, so to safety equipment, personal protective equipment. They also have rights to health care, other essential services, and also all of the laws that every Canadian enjoys under our Canadian labor standards. We know that the data we have on labor exploitation is just the tip of the iceberg. And so we're working to connect with migrant workers directly so that they understand their rights, but also know that there's a safe place to access information and support. So the Canadian Center to End Human Trafficking operates the Canadian Human Trafficking Hotline. We are independent of government and law enforcement. So we will not call the cops or government unless the migrant worker wants us to. But we can also connect them to services in their community, things like legal services, healthcare, housing, to help them access support if they are being abused by their employer. We also operate in over 200 languages, including Spanish, through simultaneous interpretation. And so we are a safe place to contact if you're experiencing any form of exploitation or abuse. It's everyone's responsibility to make sure that migrant workers are treated with dignity and fairness. Our entire food security in our country relies on the work of migrant workers. And so it's everyone's responsibility to make sure that they are protected. 91% of Canadians support the fair treatment of migrant workers. But it gets complicated when it comes to which governments. The federal government absolutely has a responsibility to ensure that the human rights of migrant workers are being protected. But we also know that the provincial governments have their own responsibility in ensuring labor standards and labor protections. And so we are calling on all levels of government to work together to ensure all migrant workers have access to safe, dignified, and supported work environments. We have heard from migrant workers that language barriers are some of the biggest challenges that they experience. So through the Canadian Human Trafficking Hotline, they can contact us, and through a third-party interpreter, we can work with them to connect them with services that speak their language in their community. So one of the things that we heard directly from migrant workers is they need access to information on their rights before they come to Canada, when they arrive, and after. So we are calling on the federal government to invest in resources to ensure that all migrant workers have information about their rights in their language, and speaking a language that they understand are not accessible to most people, let alone if you don't speak English. So we need to have accessible and good information on their rights, as well as information on where to go if things go wrong. So we would like every migrant worker in Canada to get this information before they enter, at arrival, and again, as they continue to work in Canada. Just that, again, migrant workers are essential to the Canadian economy. They deserve justice, fairness, and appropriate attention from all levels of government and employers. We know that migrant workers sacrifice their time with their families to pursue work in Canada, and they come here to work hard, and our economy is completely dependent on them. So protecting them from being exploited in our communities should be a top priority for all of us. And again, if you are experiencing any form of intimidation, abuse, if your ID is taken away from you, please call the Canadian Human Trafficking Hotline at 1-833-900-1010.
Recuerda suscribirse a nuestro canal para recibir las notificaciones de todas nuestras publicaciones y también visitar las diferentes redes sociales. Todos los jueves nos encuentra en www.correo.ca en nuestra versión digital. Mi nombre es Alejandra Gutiérrez, lo espero la próxima semana.